everybody, welcome back to another video. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. We're just parked, as you can tell. I'm just going to head out for a little bit. Just gotta work tomorrow, so just figured to get some fresh air. Just not really in the best of moods right now, so apologies if you might notice a little bit of an extra mood coming in during this video. But you know, sometimes you just gotta get out of the house, and sometimes you just gotta, you know, just chillax, get some fresh air. But this video is going to be interesting because we've kind of discussed this topic already, but it was from a different perspective, and I still retain that perspective. But I'm going to address a different point of view, in that the reliance to this particular thing. That thing that we're going to discuss, of course, is social media, because there's been some news regards to social media lately, specifically going on with TikTok, and potentially a ban that might be happening in the U.S. Not anytime soon. I mean, it might be in a month or two time, given how fast things can get passed, and Biden ultimately needing to seal the deal, sort of thing. But for just to give my thoughts on that real quick, because ultimately it kind of informs and kind of is gonna it's gonna get to my perspective, but I just want to lay out foundation. So but my thoughts on TikTok, I mean, you guys know about me on social media. If you guys have followed this channel for any period of time, I'm not crazy about it. I mean, I have an Instagram. I don't post on it anymore, just because there's nothing really, anything worth that. There's I value my privacy more than anything now, and also I'm not a child. I'm not gonna go and project onto people, because ultimately that's what social media is utilized for. A large portion of the time is just to project onto people, and to just just to say a bunch of nonsense, really. And TikTok especially was where all this ridiculousness comes from, and why a lot of this generation, my generation specifically, is just not as intellectual, just not as full of wisdom, not as mature, because of just what these sort of platforms has instilled into kids, and what they're being privy to also. And in that, giving them a false sense of a false sense of reality, and lacking in common sense, really. So I'm not opposed to TikTok going away, because I really don't support that platform and the people that are on it. And I don't want to hear the arguments for it. Well, there's small businesses on there, and that's really unfortunate. Yes, but if you're in a business of entertainment, specifically even in that front, it's a business that's doomed to fail. It's going to, because business is never absolute in that industry, and you're going to never have security and stability. That's what it means to be in the entertainment industry. You're always jumping from one thing to another. Again, just to bring up something from college, there's an actor that I remember, because I was doing film classes, and they had an actor come in to discuss the industry. He would say that he would go without work for 6 months at a time. So that's an illustration of just how the industry works, and for people like that on TikTok, or just streaming the type of apps sort of stuff, that's pretty much the same ordeal. You are committed to this platform until the platform is no longer viable, no longer just popular, basically. Which, I mean, the lifespan for stuff like this is what, 3 or 4 years, 4 or 5 years, so it's that's not stability. That's just temporary, financial decisions. So it's called hobbies. So but the reason I bring this up is because I saw an article before I left regards to the whole TikTok thing and how it will affect Hollywood. Now, it's funny how people are so ignorant to themselves because like they address this sort of thing, and it's like the whole thing about TikTok itself like being banned, like there seems to be a huge ignorance at play because you would think that Hollywood itself would be totally against this bill passing. They wouldn't want this sort of bill passing purely because of what TikTok also does in support of that industry, which is sponsorships, which is press, reception, just giving them awareness, giving more awareness to certain films, certain this, certain that, because TikTok ingrains themselves into that industry as well. TikTok's all in like the film festival circuits now and shit, so because they see the type of reach, the broadcast that app can get for them, So it's surprising to read this article and see that Hollywood actually sees benefits to losing TikTok, and at the same breath, like addressing what I just said, the loss of marketing, potential marketing that they could have from it. And I'm like, yeah, like this is where the perspective comes in. It's ultimately hypocrisy, because I don't like social media. I don't value social media. I have a YouTube page, and so there's a hypocrisy there as well. But I don't like how reliant of the industry Hollywood is to social media. It's very unfortunate that what is now labeled as good or labeled as like, oh, you should seek this out at a theater. Because I just saw a statistic also from IndieWire that addressed how many people go to the theater versus people who don't, and like about 2/3 of the adults out there in the world just wait on streaming for films to show up, or just watch stuff on streaming. Well, a third of those people, about like 30%, actually go to the theater, and that's like a larger conversation. That's like a lot to do with studios fucking themselves over in the pandemic. And I'll link the video somewhere at the end, just because that's like a whole ramble about just how the studios really shot themselves in the foot and all that. But social media also plays a big part into that, because that's why Barbie and Oppenheimer did as well as they did. That's why they're the outliers from 2023, because social media deemed it to be something to be seen. And also trends can be spawned from it, which is also what I think studios probably hope on, is that these films hopefully gain some sort of internet life, in that from the internet life they can gain traction and gain more attention. So, and hopefully through that profit, but in saying all this, like, I don't like what social media does for Hollywood. But as I say this, and when I'm in my perspective ultimately, which I think is pretty apparent, social media is needed of Hollywood. Hollywood needs social media at this point. Like, as much as I don't like the platforms, as much as I don't like just the literal what's on there, like, we can get into political debates, but like, they're for my money, they're pretty much liberal apps. So if you want your left wing, your left wing, news, just go to any of these fucking apps. TikTok's just filled with that shit. And also just moronic people on that forum. Also, that app, just, they're all over that fucking thing. So, and I know it's not everybody, but still, the loudest voices on that platform ultimately are the dictators of that platform, and it's just gross, the kind of people on that platform. But anyways, Hollywood needs social media more than anything nowadays, just because of, again, where things are going, generally speaking, with people just not going to the theater as much as often. I'll put the statistic here somewhere just so you guys can see what I'm referring to. Like, there's less interest to go to the theater, and that interest only spikes when social media deems it interesting. When social media, when TikTok or Instagram, what have you, tells you, hey, you guys should go see this movie, and then a trend to spawn from it. That's what films are now relying upon. They're relying on that sort of attention, that sort of conversation, you know, that sort of discussion. It's no longer about, people just generally interested in the film, or having theaters as the only way to view film, because, as we said, streaming has become such a dominance in our culture now that, like, go back to 2019, it was not as popular. 2019, like, Disney Plus wasn't even a fucking thing. Like, the only streaming services were like Netflix and Hulu, really. But now you got those, and now HBO Max, Disney Plus, Peacock, Amazon Prime. Like, you got all these big streaming services, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that people were at home, and studios were paranoid about trying to make money. And with that, they sped up streaming services and gave audiences the impression that films that are in theaters will come to streaming earlier. So they don't feel an incentive to go to the theater anymore, because they were fed the idea that movies from the theater will be on streaming anyway. Warner Brothers, I'm looking at you. So, like, and I mean, the theatrical window also was cut in half. So, I mean, they're not wrong in thinking that movies come earlier. They do. Like, it's a situation where it wasn't always the case where social media was such a reliance on the success of film. Again, track it back to 2018, 2019, where TikTok wasn't even a thing. TikTok, I did research. I mean, yeah, I think it was like, it went online in like 2016, 2017, but no one gave a shit about it until the pandemic really came about. And people were at home looking for some sort of social interaction. So that's when TikTok became such a popular thing, But go back to 2018, 2019, and you just check the box office there. It's drastically different compared to the type of box office that you're getting nowadays, because theaters were the only place to go see movies for a large time. The theatrical window was also longer. Streaming was vague. There wasn't much options out there. You had like Netflix and Hulu, really. It wasn't the opposite as today is, where streaming is now the big dogs, and theaters are like kind of wishy-washy. They kind of are doing okay, but movies are suffering because of it. Movies cannot make as much profit because, as we've also examined on this channel, streaming is not a viable option. You cannot put like $100 million plus film on streaming. It's just not going to make that kind of money. It's just not going to, especially with how streaming is set up. You can't make as much money as possible because of what the subscription service is, how much money you ultimately get out of that sort of thing. Having to navigate those sort of barriers, like that's what causes movies to make less if you were to like put them on streaming. But the very reason why they're making less in theaters is because of streaming, because of how streaming has been fed to our culture and how it's been utilized today. And because of this, we need social media. Social media is what is ultimately going to keep films afloat now. It has nothing to do with general interest. It has nothing to do with people going, oh, I want to see that movie. It's, oh, well, there's a trend, or, oh, there's a ton of people on TikTok or Instagram saying that it's awesome. Let's go check it out. Like, that's what's really going to drive film to move forward now, financially. And that wasn't always the case. What it originally was just people going to the theater because that was the only place in town to watch movies. But now that's not the case anymore. People are now just content with waiting for like a month or two to get their movies. And they're not wrong in thinking that way, because that is what is happening right now. And studios are so blind to that. They think that it's like a fatigue that's forming and other things like that. No, it's just that you have told audiences that the theater is not the only place to watch this movie, and that they can watch it, mind you, for them, maybe potentially free, because, I mean, they already pay off a streaming service. I mean, yes, they pay like $12 or $14 depending on the service, but compare that to going to the theater where you're paying $40 to $50. because you're having to consider concessions and all these other factors. Like, it's just a better deal, and I get why people are more enticed in that front, and how they might need more of a compelling argument, or more of an incentive, more of a reason to go. And that's why social media is there. It's that extra push to get people to go to the theater. So that's the current landscape now. It sucks. I think that it's a bad place to be, because like social media can only do so much to gain interest, to get people to go out, to go to the theater, and we see the results of that. Like, Dune is underperforming. I don't know why people are saying Dune's doing good. It's not. It's underperforming. It needs to make like 500 to like break even, and so far it's made like 360. So, and it's already came out in China, so you can't say that it's not been released in the foreign market. It has. So, like, it can only do so much, and sometimes it could lead to great success, like Barbie and Oppenheimer, but I really think that those are just exceptions, you know? And also, like, the literal timing of that, like the release window. They were both coming out on the same day, and then that trend was spawned, so that's kind of different. And also, that was in summer, you know? So, like, there's different factors involved with that. But social media is ultimately what gives that push, you know? But it just sucks. It sucks that that's where that's where the success is going to be for film, is through the attention on social media, through TikTokers, through influencers. That's who ultimately is what's giving film their success and their power. And it's strange that Hollywood would not be against this bill. I wonder if they are against this bill. Like, maybe it's just that one article that I read, but it's like, you would think that they would be really against it. Or maybe they're just very stupid, because that's really what's driving film nowadays. Nothing else is driving film. Nothing else. The statistics prove it. This is just, this is the only thing that's really getting people to go to the theater at this point. That, I mean, there's cinephiles and film fans, sure, but that's 10%, you know, of that statistic. The rest of that, the 20% of that, are just, I presume, again, social media influence. People saying on those platforms to go check out these movies, you know. So, I am for TikTok just going away. Like, I personally want it to go away, because I don't like the voices on there. I really don't. I don't like just, like, politically speaking and all that stuff. I think that it's just sickening and gross when you put it towards kids, because kids are on those things all the time, and for them to be previewed to certain things, it's gross, and kids should not be looking at stuff like that. So I am cool with TikTok being banned, but I acknowledge that the very reason that film makes the kind of money that it's making today, whether it's large amounts or just mediocre, is a lot to do with social media, and a lot to do with the actual discussions being had online through those apps, through the Instagrams, through the TikToks, you know, through the memes and all that sort of stuff. That's what film is relying upon nowadays to make money. It has nothing to do with general audiences. It has everything to do with those influencers. And it sucks. It sucks ultimately. But that's the real world. I can't say it's really the studio's fault, but in some respects it is, because of how they've set this up with streaming, and the downfall of that with streaming, and now with social media being ingrained into our culture so much, that's where the demand's at. That's where people will, like, that's where the attention is created, you know. That's where the intrigue is made. It's not from individuals, it's from a bunch of people spawning memes and shit. Hollywood needs to realize the sort of reliance that they have to social media, and what that relationship means for them going forward. It's the one solid relationship that they have left. Everything else is sort of faded. The audience really isn't there. Streaming is not making it work. The really thing that keeps them afloat is social media. Everybody else is just kind of sitting at home watching Netflix or Hulu and shit or whatever. So yeah. So that's just my perspective. That's just my perspective of it. I think that Hollywood just needs social media at this point. So to ban stuff like TikTok and stuff like that, I think that's actually going to hurt them more, really. But that's just how I view it. But you guys know your thoughts on the ban going on for TikTok, just Hollywood's relationship to social media and what really is generating money for them. I purely believe it's from just how social media deems film, just what they believe is good and what they believe is bad. Like, that's what really drives, success. What's really is going to generate money for film is through the conversations on social media. That's just where I'm coming from. But you guys will know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll again leave links to the videos, like stuff about theatrical window and all that sort of stuff, because this is like the whole story of like how studios really fucked themselves over. It started at the theatrical window, then with that whole streaming thing with Warner Brothers that really just fucked them over, to now relying upon social media, and seeing how that sort of relationship only generates so much, and it's very specific in the large amounts versus the kind of amounts that they're making right now. So it's not a guarantee. It's just like the industry. This sort of relationship is not a stable one. It's not one that is guaranteed to work. It is going to make for less returns in most cases, in my opinion. But you guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Sorry, I just got ahead of myself. That's gonna be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.